What if I told you the snack you reach for during stress may be quietly increasing your doctor visits and giving your insurance company more reasons to deny your claims? We think emotional eating is harmless because it numbs the moment. But research suggests it may be one of the most expensive habits Americans unconsciously carry. Most of us don't connect the dots between our stress cravings and our insurance bills. We assume the worst consequence is extra calories. Yet according to the American Psychological Association, 38% of adults say they overeat specifically to cope with stress. Today, we're diving into a hidden trap affecting millions across the United States. Emotional eating doesn't just touch your mood, it touches your medical records, your lab results, and eventually your insurance status. And very few people realize how tightly those pieces are connected. By the end of this video, you'll understand how emotional eating triggers more doctor visits than most people suspect. You'll see exactly how insurance companies interpret the patterns your body shows, and you'll learn simple changes to protect both your health and your wallet. This insight is backed by research from Harvard University, the Centers for Disease Control and Prevention, and national underwriting guidelines used by major insurers. These are the same metrics that determine whether your claim gets approved easily or flagged for review. And emotional eating plays into those metrics more than most people know. First, let's talk about why emotional eating hits the body harder than we expect. Stress eating isn't about hunger, it's about calming the nervous system. And when stress becomes chronic, the body enters a state of constant alarm. Think of your stress response like a fire alarm that never stops ringing. Every time stress spikes, you crave something fast, salty, sugary, or fatty to silence that alarm. That moment of relief can set up a long-term metabolic price. A 2021 study in the Journal of Behavioral Medicine found that people under chronic stress consumed up to 40% more sugar per day. That level of sugar intake increases insulin surges, which then elevates inflammation and disrupts cholesterol patterns. Even people of normal weight showed changes in their A1C within weeks. These internal changes trigger more fatigue and more digestive problems. Those symptoms almost always lead to additional doctor visits and lab work, and that's exactly where the insurance connection begins. Suddenly your A1C doesn't look so stable. Your LDL cholesterol jumps higher than last year's level, and now your health profile signals elevated risk to Next, let's talk about how insurance companies view these patterns. Insurers don't evaluate your emotions, they evaluate your outcomes. And emotional eating leaves visible patterns in your medical data. Underwriting guidelines referenced by the National Association of Insurance Commissioners highlight several red flags. They include pre-diabetes, repeated GI visits, elevated triglycerides, and blood pressure fluctuations. All of these are commonly triggered by chronic stress-eating cyclists. Here's the part most people never hear. A 2022 report from the American Journal of Managed Care found that claims tied to preventable metabolic conditions were 22% more likely to be challenged, delayed, or denied. Insurers categorize these issues as modifiable risks, and anything considered modifiable is subject to more scrutiny. It's not about blame, it's about cost prediction. Insurance algorithms are built to identify where preventable expenses occur, and emotional eating creates exactly that pattern. Preventable complications. Now, let's ground this in a real example. The Cleveland Clinic highlighted a 54-year-old patient profile dealing with emotional overeating during work stress. Over 2 years, that pattern triggered unstable glucose, chest discomfort, and multiple visits. Several of those visits resulted in imaging tests that were later declined. The reason? The symptoms were labeled non-emergent, meaning they appeared preventable. This is the kind of domino effect emotional eating can create. Not out of bad intentions, but out of habits we barely notice. And those habits turn into medical codes, risk scores, and insurance decisions. So the cycle becomes expensive. Stress creates emotional eating. Emotional eating creates symptoms, and symptoms create both bills and insurance friction. And each step is quietly logged in your medical history. But here's the good news. Small changes can interrupt that cycle. Even a 10% reduction in added sugar, according to Harvard Health, can lower insulin spikes within 2 weeks. And those shifts show up in your next round of labs. When your labs improve, your doctor visits stabilize, and when your visits stabilize, your insurance risk profile improves. This is how small food choices create big insurance outcomes. So here's what we've learned. Emotional eating affects far more than your mood. It shapes your blood markers, your medical frequency, and how insurers classify your risk. And in the U.S. insurance system, perception of risk is everything. The next time stress hits and you reach for comfort food, pause for just 3 seconds. Ask yourself whether this choice is calming you or costing you. That tiny moment of awareness can shift both your health and your financial future. If you take away one insight, let it be this: emotional patterns show up in medical data, and medical data determines how the system treats you. Changing the pattern even slightly can change the outcome dramatically.